Hello, welcome to this pre-recorded video, EHCP supporting a parent with the process. My name is Mel Adams and I'm a partnerships manager here at Witherslack Group. So the aim of this session is to help you have a better understanding of what parents and carers may experience through the SEN process, the barriers they may face, and most importantly, to inform the way that you work with families. Every parent or carer will have a different experience throughout the SEN process. Their child is unique and so will their journey be. Any emotion you can think of might be how parents and carers feel. This is so personal and important to families that it can be an emotional journey. That journey may well have started way before the child gets into an education setting. The child's difficulties or disability might have been identified at birth or even before. Parents may have had to come to terms with a diagnosis or a lack of. They may have had to change their lifestyle or family plans. For other parents and carers, an additional need being identified may come as a shock. They may not agree that their child has a special educational need or feel that they are having to battle the way to get their concerns heard. So what emotions can parents and carers feel? Any emotion that you can think of. So they might be angry, confused, they might be disengaged, distrustful, upset, bewildered, frustrated, anything. And I think as professionals, it's easy to forget that for families, this is not just a process, this is their life. And special educational needs, school, education, healthcare plans, etc. are just part of it for them. There will likely be other stresses and strains on their lives. The child's needs may have had an impact on every aspect of their lives. They may well have other siblings within the family. They might also have special educational needs. Parents themselves might have their own needs, mental health issues or medical needs. They may have had a bad experience for education, possibly a special school themselves. And also the parent or the grandparent might be the carer. And then that means that they'd be even more removed from the current education system. Parents might not have an extended family to rely on as a network. They might feel alone and isolated. Parents could have financial, housing, relationship, employment worries as well. As we know, the SEN process is complex and lengthy, and the prospect of embarking on a journey towards ensuring that your child's needs are met can be daunting. There is a whole new language of jargon and terminology to learn, forms to fill in, documents to read, new people to deal with, as well as finding the time to do all of this. It can become a difficult and formal process with law and statutory guidance, which parents might not be experienced before. Parents might be overwhelmed and feel that they won't be able to get through the process. They may not have confidence in their role as a professional, when in fact they are the world's expert on their own child's needs. They might feel like they're entering a maze and they don't know the way out of it. We're going to have a walk through that journey and think about what would be helpful for families to support them along the way, to ease the pressure and work together to get the best outcome for their children. There are many ways that support can be given to families, and that will vary from family to family dependent on their situation and needs. That support might be emotional, offering a listening ear and a space to offload. It might be practical, assisting with filling forms, access to a computer, or technical, explaining each step of the process, what professionals' roles are, etc. So let's have a look at a few general tips. So as I said, there's lots of ways in which you can support parents, and you're probably already doing all of these, but it's a really good idea just to formalise them so that you know you're doing the right thing. So let's take a stroll through the process from SEN supports right from the beginning through to an EHCP being issued, and think about what barriers there may be for parents and carers and what support can be given at each stage. Sorry. So, SEN support. This is a starting point and can be a tricky time for families. It's all new to most. They might feel a bit lost and in need of some guidance. They might be feeling judged or they might be relieved, they might be in denial that their child even has special educational needs. And don't forget, this process has basis in law. So the Children and Families Act 2014 Part 3 and the Special Educational Needs and Disability Code of Practice Note 25, revised 2015, it already sounds really complicated. So that can be quite daunting for parents, and they might feel that it's inaccessible. So step-by-step explanation would be helpful at a pace and a style and a level to suit the individual. It might be helpful to signpost parents or carers to an organisation that can offer further support and information and guidance, such as SENco, Special Educational Needs and Disability Information Advice and Support Service, or EHCP, or any of the other organisations that are out there at this or at any stage throughout the process. There are points at SEN support that school will naturally have the opportunity to support parents and carers. It's a school-based stage, so it's based within the school's own resources, so parents will naturally look to school for this support. Parents' experience will be variable depending on the school, the local authority, so an explanation again would be helpful for them. Parents might identify that there's an issue, but school might not agree. So it would be great then to have some additional discussion around that and carefully explain what your situation is, what your perspective is. If school do agree, then the assessed plan do review cycle commences. And again, that's something that we use all the time, but parents might not understand what it is. This process at this stage will involve a document, an IEP, setting out what's going to be put in place. There'll be a meeting in school 3 times a year to help keep parents up to date and informed, so that will be helpful for them to be fully involved with that. Other professionals might become involved at this stage, again, which should be seen as an additional source of support for parents. And of course, there might be CAF or TAF process involved, which again could give the family as a whole some further support in a more holistic way. So at this stage, parents might feel that there are some barriers in the way and they might not feel listened to. So here are some of the types of comments that parents and carers may hear. So this is where giving time to discuss really comes in. If school don't agree that a child's having difficulties in school, as I said before, it would be really helpful to listen carefully to parental concerns, really understand them, and then address the points so that parents can understand school's point of view as well, and why that's not being agreed with. And some of the comments on here are comments that parents would regularly hear. So for some children, SEN support will give them enough support and they may not need to go forward for an education healthcare plan needs assessment, which may or may not be what parents want the outcome to be. So they might be really pleased with that, they might be disappointed. So again, careful and clear explanation will assist with understanding what the plan is. Keeping in regular contact with parents if an EHCP needs assessment is to be requested will help manage expectations around timescales and reassure them that gathering the evidence can take time and it's an ongoing process. It feels like there's a lot of time when there's nothing happening, so it would be really helpful to do that. It would be helpful to carefully explain that the process is evidence-based, and that's why it's important to get all the reports in for them to be accurate. The professional and school report should be shared with parents as soon as possible so that they feel like they're included and don't feel like there's things going on that they don't know about. And for some parents, it might be helpful to maybe keep a duplicate set of papers. So if you're gathering your information in school in a folder, maybe keep a duplicate one for parents so that they can keep everything organised, and maybe keep it in school so they've always got access to it. So at this stage, parents can feel as though reasons might be being given as to why the education healthcare plan needs assessment shouldn't be requested. They can feel like they're having to push to get it through. Parents can, of course, make the request themselves if they wanted to. They've always got that option open to them. But most parents would probably appreciate the support from school and for a co-produced application to be submitted by school. Again, at this stage, it would be useful for parents to be aware of the timescales for the assessment process. As I said before, it does feel like there are long periods of time when nothing's happening. Also, things like the fact that the assessment is paper-based, it's paper exercise rather than a physical appointment, which seems obvious if you're in the process, but wouldn't be obvious otherwise. An assessment is where you actually take somebody to something, and that the advices or reports that the local authority gathers are collated to summarise them into an education healthcare plan if one is to be issued. Again, something useful that parents would find helpful to know. So if the education healthcare needs assessment goes ahead and the local authority issue a draft education healthcare plan, then obviously parents have the opportunity to proofread the document before accepting it. Parents might really appreciate schools' input at this stage. They might need support to actually read through and understand the different sections. They might feel quite emotional. Seeing the child's needs written down in black and white can be quite a big thing, and might need some emotional support around that. You might also want to check what you think about the accuracy of the document and understand how the support would actually be delivered in school. So an explanation of the education healthcare plan, including the educational needs and the provision or what needs to be put in place to support the child, the outcomes to aspire to, the health and social care needs and provision and personal budget. You know, an explanation of all the sections might help. Explain that the draft won't name a school, because that can be alarming for parents who, you know, want to see which school the child's going to go to, turn section I and it's blank, but maybe to explain that the draft cannot name a placement to give them opportunity to be able to state a preference. To help them understand and look that all the points are specific and measurable. And remind parents that they can ask for a co-production meeting to discuss with the local authority if they feel like they want to discuss more, and then that meeting must be organised. And again, parents might really appreciate your support at school with that. And remind parents that they've got 15 days from receipt of the draft copy of the EHCP to make representations, but they can ask for that clock to be stopped if they're on holiday when it arrives, or school's closed, or parents work different shifts. They can ask for more time to look at that. So when parents and carers receive the EHCP in draft form, there's some barriers to that you could help with. As said before, things like understanding the jargon and understanding the different sections, and that would be really helpful to go through with them step by step. For many parents, the issuing of the EHCP will mean that they've got the outcome that they wanted and they'll be feeling relieved and happy. And although most children will continue to be educated within the mainstream school that they're already at, with the additional support that comes with the EHCP, for a few there's the added step of changing school to a maintained, or in a few cases to an independent special school. This is something that parents might again turn to school to seek advice and support with. It might be helpful to signpost parents to the local authority's local offer page at this stage on their website, so that they can get further information about the schools that are available in the borough. You might even consider supporting parents and the child to visit any potential schools. Transport might be an issue, as well as having the confidence to ask questions or being able to jot down the answers to the questions whilst on the visit. Parents and carers might appreciate having a familiar person with them who can give them a second pair of eyes and ears, and then have a discussion with following the visit. It might be that a parent would want you to assist with them putting their preference forward to the local authority. And don't forget that although parents have the right to express preference, it's the local authority's responsibility to name the school. So parents can feel that this can be the most challenging part of the process, as it's not as straightforward as some of the other areas. Parents might feel that they have to find the schools, arrange the visits, etc., and that might be something that they're not used to doing, and or be a bit of an alien concept to them. The process is a more complex one because the local authority firstly need to agree that a special school is needed, and then look at their own maintained provision before they consider independent schools. So that might be an added step. And as I said before, parents have the right to state a preference and their views very much should be heard, but it's the local authority's responsibility to name the school. And that decision might have to go through a panel or through several panels to get agreement, depending on the local authority's processes. So again, these are some of the barriers and some of the things that parents might hear at this stage of the process. So to bring all this together, I have a little analogy called the athletics track that may or may not help the scenario, but sometimes it's good to put a visual twist on things, and please feel free to pinch this and share with parents. So the whole process from requesting the education healthcare plan to that being put in place in a format that parents are happy with, think of it like a 400 metres athletics track with 4 hurdles on it. So a trained runner would think that that was easy peasy, only having to get over 4 hurdles in 400 metres, but it is way more complicated than that, as we know. So when parents are preparing to, you know, they're at SEN support and they're gathering information to go through for an education healthcare plan needs request, then they're in the centre of the track, they're warming up, they've got the track suits on, they're doing the star jumps and the lunges. And then they get on that starting line, they take the tracksuit off, they've got all their information gathered, and you're supporting them to put that application in. So the assessment request goes in, they get to hurdle 1. If there's an agreement to carry out the EHCP needs assessment, then they're over that hurdle and on to the next one. Hurdle 2, agreement to issue a draft. So if that's not agreed, then that hurdle's knocked down. If it is, they're over that. And then they're on to hurdle 3, which is about agreeing the contents of the EHCP. Hurdle 4 is getting the agreement about the school named, and then they get to the final finish line and they're over that line when the EHCP is issued. If they knock down any of those hurdles, it's okay, there's a right of appeal at those stages, which again is another complicated process. So the tribunal process can be tricky for parents, and although you wouldn't necessarily be offering support yourselves through this process, it might be useful to have some knowledge around it so that you can help parents just prepare for it being a difficult thing to go through. So it's a formal process. It's administered through His Majesty's Courts, through the tribunal services based in Darlington. The guidance is that it should be a 20-week process, but in reality at the moment it's taking much longer. There's been sort of a real surge in tribunal cases, so they're taking much longer than that. It is now held online, so that should help get rid of the backlog a little bit, but it's still a lengthy process and gives parents a lot of worrying time. There's a mediation process to go through for all appeals apart from purely section I, so that's the name of school, but for all of the appeals, so that could be refusal to assess, refusal to issue an EHCP, a dispute over sections B and F, so the description of the child's needs and the provision, section I, which is the name of the school. But there's also a couple of other things parents can appeal against. So if following an annual review, the local authority don't amend the EHCP, if parents request some amendments, then they can appeal against that. And if the local authority feel that the EHCP is no longer needed and they're ceasing to maintain it, can appeal against that as well. But from that decision, there's 2 months in which to appeal, or 1 month from getting the mediation certificate, so that's another process to go through. As I said, it's quite a formal process, even though it's held online. There's a judge and a panel member. It can be it's formal, so it can be scary, intimidating. Parents might feel like the odds are stacked against them, although parents have a pretty good success rate at the tribunal, so it's, you know, that should be able to give them some heart. Parents are running the risk that they might not get the outcome they want because that decision is final, and they can only appeal that decision against that decision if the judgment was based, if the judgment was wrong on a point of law. So let's just take a minute to consider foster carers as well, because they come with they have some additional pressures that we need to be mindful of. The social worker holds parental responsibility for a looked after child, so everything needs to go through them. The carer might not agree with the social worker's opinions, and parents might still be involved in some form or another and expressing differing views. The carer might have had the young person for quite a long time and know them really well, or they might recently have joined the family and they're only just getting to know them and weren't perhaps expecting such a complex situation. There'll be other professionals involved who looked after children, such as virtual school, foster carers, social workers, the child social worker, the independent reviewing officer, etc. Sometimes it can be a cast of thousands, and there might also be an increased number of meetings. So there might be personal education plans or pet meetings, child in need meetings, safeguarding reviews, a whole host of different things that foster carers might need to be involved in. And they might feel that they've got a real pressure to make sure that the young person's voice is heard, and they may themselves feel disempowered. So after that process, you can see why parents and carers might be distrustful or suspicious or angry at a decision or looking for fault or anticipating a placement breakdown. They might be expecting everything to be perfect and be a bit disappointed. Or they might be feeling relieved and happy and that they've got what they feel is best for their young person. So what can we do? As I said before, it's about being kind, being patient, giving parents time. It's about helping them with the practical situations. It's about communicating effectively, saying what you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and making sure that they have a real positive experience. We're all working towards getting the best possible outcomes for our young people. I hope that's been helpful and has given you a few tips. I'm sure that you already, as practitioners, do most of that anyway, but I'm sure it'll be just some helpful hints and tips will be helpful for you. So thank you for listening, and carry on supporting those parents.